I just returned from a week-long holiday and I went immediately into racing. This is going to be stage 3 of the Lap It Up on Seaside Sprint route, and I'm really interested how the week of the bike affects my performance. I might have detrained, or actually me being rested could actually improve my performance. I think we're just going to have to see. So I'm experiencing with the user's interface again. Last time it was just very hot needle kind of thing because I was leaving for the holiday. When I was editing the video, I got some feedback and I'm going to try to implementing it as well as possible. So there might be some changes in the future, but eventually I will settle down for something that is going to be signature me, so to speak.
At the very start, let me apologize for the somewhat delayed uploads. As I said in the beginning, we were on holidays in Dubai, and you might have noticed there were severe flooding and our trip back home was very, very difficult. So when we arrived, I was really tired and didn't feel like racing the first day I was home. But hopefully this upload is still in time.
Looks like we have a breakaway right from the start. Oh, maybe not.
So prior to this race, I didn't sit on a bike for 10 days. And that was the longest I was off the bike ever since I started Zwifting. So I was pretty interested in what effect that is going to have on my fitness and my ability to race and dig deep. It was basically coming down to 3 possible scenarios. The first, I detrained somewhat. The second, I wouldn't feel much of a difference. And the third, I would be actually rested and race really, really well. I would say in the 10 days leading up to this race, I detrained a little bit, but I also rested up. So the end result would really depend on which of these effects were stronger, basically.
So far, so good.
So this is the stage 3 of the Lap It Up Zwift monthly series. It's on the Seaside Sprint, which is basically 3 laps on this course. In total, the distance is almost 22 kilometers and 174 vertical meters. And during each of those laps, you get one of the 2 possible power-ups, either featherweight or draft boost. At first, you get one of those power-ups at the very start in the downtown Watopia, and then during each lap you receive one of those in the sprint banner and the second in the volcano where we currently are. As usual, I'm speeding up the footage in the first 2 laps, and I will keep the 3rd lap as a whole because that is going to be where the racing will be most interesting. My plan for this race was to keep up with the front group for as long as possible, preferably for the whole duration of the race. And actually during the first lap, which you are watching right now, I felt really, really strong.
I've used the power-up the wrong time. I thought we would connect to the other lap somewhere else. Should have kept it for this climb, final climb on the assist.
Yeah, there are basically 2 points during this race at which you want to use the power-ups. Those are 2 places where the effort gets considerably harder. The first of one is this final climb of the S's that you just watched recently. And the second one is the little climb up to the volcano path from the sea level. So I think at this point I should probably talk about my plans going forward. As I recently got into B category, I need to formulate some sort of game plan to get to the A. And I'm not sure that I will be able to do it without any structured training. Up until this point, I was basically just racing and then recovery riding. I think at this point I might need to add at least 1 quality session a week and do 1 longer endurance ride each week. Up until this point, my longer rides were only if the race was longer, but during the weeks where there is not long race, I really need to do zone 2 riding for a longer time because my endurance is definitely my weak spot lately. So what is likely to happen is I'm going probably to decrease my racing frequency from 2 times a week to about 1.5, I would say. When there are interesting races like the Etap or Tour de Zwift or Zwift games, I will probably still do 2 races a week, but during the more boring periods, so to speak, I will probably just do 1 race a week. It's going to probably be the ZWIFT Racing monthly, and we'll see what impact that is going to have on my racing.
Too early again.
To give myself a little bit of accountability, I will probably include recaps of my recent training as part of my video commentary. I'm not sure what would be the best form and I'll have to figure that out. But I think it could be interesting to see what training I done and what impact does it have on my racing.
Last lap.
Also, when it comes down to doing endurance rides, I would like to do some of those outside as well. Right now in Prague it is very cold and rainy, but eventually there will come days where the weather will be beautiful, and I think it would be really nice to take advantage of those to do my Z2 riding. The problem with that is I have no idea what's going to happen when I take my bike off the trainer. I've done almost 5,000 kilometers over the winter, and I'm not sure if my bike is going to shift well, if the brakes will be solid. I'll just need to do a short test ride to see if my bike is usable at all outside. If I did that, I might consider doing some videos from the outside as well, but considering that would go a little bit off theme of my channel, which is basically focused on the progression in Zwift, let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. So here we are in the Dirty Sorpresa, going down, and we will soon approach the last volcano crossing. I'm still in the front group. Still at this point I felt pretty good. I don't know if it is because I was rested or if the group was riding slower than I am used to. Looking at my average wattage, that might look like so, but looking at the Zwift power, other riders were actually putting some pretty good watts. So maybe I was just drafting well. It is, however, undeniable that my effort level in this race on average was lower than during my previous race, at least in Glasgow. But then again, that's a race with a lot of rolling terrain, which is always harder. Here we have basically just two smaller climbs that are challenging the effort levels of the riders. Up until this point, I was using the power-ups at wrong locations, but at least in the third lap I wanted to use them correctly, so I kept this featherweight for the climb up to the volcano crossing, which is going to come right behind this upcoming corner. I expected that this being probably the hardest climbing of this loop and the race being in its third lap, some riders would try to attack and really push up the power, which is what happened, but the power up was definitely useful and I found enough energy to really stay with the group still. During each of those 3 laps, at this point, after this climb, the effort level increased every single time. I think it is something about the riders being in the rhythm of pushing hard and trying to carry it over to this flat section. You can see it around here that I'm outputting about 350 watts, and there are still riders who are getting away from the group. Here comes another attempt to break the group and form some sort of breakaway. But as you will be able to see in a little bit, the break was caught and it would come down really to the last few small climbs on the S's. All in all, I think it is a pretty fun course to ride. It's not overly crazy in terms of the elevation changes. You can ride pretty steady power in here, and you've got plenty of opportunities to recover from the harder efforts on the climbs. But on the other hand, there is something inherently interesting on the rolling courses that have potential to break the group way more and make the racing more interesting. So I think each course has its own benefits and also shortcomings. Here we entered the last 2K of the race, and it's going to be the S's, which is the rolling part of this course. It's going to be where the result is actually going to be decided. I think this is the point where we should discuss the answer to the question in the title. Do 10 days of the bike really wreck your fitness? No, they don't. I felt really good during this race. I might have lost some fitness during the break, but I recovered very well, and I think the net effect was pretty positive. In terms of final standing, this was probably my most successful B race yet. And I'm eager to see where I can take my fitness from here. I actually got into B a little faster than I expected, but obviously the biggest part of the work, getting into A, is still in front of me. So thank you that you watched this race. I'll let you watch the final K and the ultimate showdown in silence. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you during the next race, which is going to be the L'Etape Prologue, somewhere in the middle of the next week. Ciao.
Yes. 17th. That's not bad at all.